Occam's razor, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is a scientific and philosophical rule that entities should not be multiplied unnecessarily, which is interpreted as requiring that the simplest of competing theories be preferred to the more complex, or that explanations of unknown phenomena be sought first in terms of known quantities. Okay, now with that in mind, with the recent revelations issued by our government, the Pentagon, the people in the Pentagon are telling us that there are objects out there of which they do not know what they are. There are objects flying throughout our atmosphere that perform better than the best jets that we have. And and you have to understand that we are the United States is the most technologically advanced superpower ever in the history of humankind, as far as we know. I mean, because we know it's not China and Russia. I mean, they might have something, at best, a little bit more advanced than what we got, but they don't got anything like what we're seeing in some of these recent videos that the Pentagon has confirmed are sightings or actual video of actual objects that military personnel, pilots have seen and videotaped. So we know that there's something going on. They admit it. They're basically saying, yeah, we don't know. Yeah, there's things out there, yeah, we don't know what they are, you know, we don't know where they come from, what they're doing, what they're trying to do, what they're up to. We don't know who's piloting them. We don't know if they're operated by beings, by we don't know if they're remotely operated. We don't know what's going on. But they're there. We're telling you now. We're telling you now. Now a lot of people are still fighting this. They just can't believe it. This is the UFO debunker's nightmare is unfolding as right now, you know. Okay, but I guess that comes to the question now. For years, uh, many ranchers across the United States, across the entire world, have complained about cattle mutilations. A lot of these stories. I mean, there are UFO sightings, and then the next thing you know, there's a cow that's found out in the pasture that's completely decimated. I mean, it's the anuses are bored out, the eyeballs are gone, the heart's gone, all the sexual organs are gone. It looks like ears are cut off with surgical precision, eyeballs removed with surgical precision. It's incredible the things that have happened. It's never been explained what's behind it. Some people have postulated over the years that it could be Satanists or the government conducting secret psyop operations. That doesn't make any sense to me. None of that makes any sense to me. Somebody would have been caught by this point. Nobody's ever been caught. It's always been mysterious. Now, of course, I'm sure that there are some mutilations that are caused by predators, natural predators, or maybe there's a couple of satanic cults got away with something here and there. But there's tens of thousands of these things that have occurred throughout the planet, over years and years and years. I mean, it really hasn't been uh, uh, it hasn't been investigated until like the late 60s when there was an incident. And then that, throughout the 70s, there were things going on. There have been documentaries. Uh, there was a documentary that was made that showed up on HBO in 1980 called Strange Harvest, which was about this situation. And all these years later, over 40 years later, they still don't. I mean, there's still no answers to this. But the answer now is right in front of our faces. I mean, now with the government basically, yeah, we don't know what these things are. They're there. Maybe it's China, maybe it's Russia. We don't know. Well, let me tell you something. It's not China. It's not Russia. I'm going to keep saying that for probably every video. It's not China. It's not Russia. These things are operated by extraterrestrials. Okay, now calm down. Just calm down. It's okay. They've been They've been here a long time. Why they're here, what they're doing, nobody really knows. But you know, they're here, and we just have to deal with that. But now we know. Now we know. You know that these ranchers and other witnesses who have seen flying saucers and other weird flying machines, you know, hovering around cattle ranches, throughout time, they weren't lying. Okay, they weren't lying. At least most of them weren't. And because then the next thing you know, their cattle's mutilated, mysteriously. Anyway, I'm gonna, I'm gonna go to a chapter here from Alien Agenda. I love referring to this book by the late Jim Mars. He was an investigative reporter, and in his chapter 9, entitled "Death from the Sky," he talks about a 1967 case that involved a horse. Okay, that was mutilated. In 1967, a Colorado couple, Burl and Nellie Lewis, decided to ask Nellie's brother to pasture their horse, a 3-year-old Appaloosa mare named Lady. The brother rancher, Harry King, had good pasture land in the San Luis Valley of southern Colorado, and it seemed like the obvious solution for where to keep their horse. Their decision was to have fatal and far reaching consequences. For on September 9th, Rancher King found the body of Lady lying in Chico Bush not far from his home. The horse's head and part of her neck had been stripped clean of flesh. The remainder of the body was untouched. The skull was so white and clean it appeared to have been bleached to exposure to sunlight for many days. But King knew that Lady had been alive less than 2 days earlier. There was no blood and no tracks around the mare's corpse. The cut on her neck was smooth and precise. Rancher King was stunned. The neck was cut so smooth it couldn't have been done even with a sharp hunting knife, he said later. The Lewises, too, were impressed by the precision of the neck cut. It wasn't hacked off, but it was very neat, and that was what was so odd, recalled Nellie Lewis after reviewing her dead horse on September 10th. She noted a peculiar medicinal odor at the site, something like incense. 2 weeks after Lady's death, the body was examined by Dr. John Henry Altschuler, then a pathologist at Rose Medical Center in Denver. Dr. Altschuler found the horse had been cut from the neck down to the base of the chest by a vertical clean incision. He also discovered that the edge of the cut was firm and of a darker color, as if the flesh had been cauterized with a laser beam. However, as Dr. Altschuler noted, was no surgical laser technology like that in 1967. At least there was no such technology as far as the public knew. The doctor also discovered that some of Lady's internal organs were missing, notably the heart, lungs, and thyroid. Most amazing was the lack of blood, Dr. Altschuler recalled years later. I have done hundreds of autopsies. You can't cut into a body without getting some blood, but there was no blood on the skin or on the ground. No blood anywhere. That impressed me the most. The strangeness of Lady's death increased when it was learned that several people reported seeing a UFO in the area just before the mutilated horse was found. San Luis Valley resident Dwayne Martin said he had seen several small jets zooming around at very high speeds but at very low altitude in the area of Lady's death. Even Harry King's 87-year-old mother, Agnes King, claimed a large object had passed over the King Ranch house the night Lady died. Mrs. King said that due to failing eyesight, she was not sure what the object was. By the first week in October 1967, news articles about the mutilation had been published in nearby Pueblo, Colorado. In the news reports, Lady was misidentified as Snippy, the name of her mother corralled near the King Ranch. But, mistakes aside, the connection between the horse mutilation and UFOs was too good a story to pass up. Reports were picked up and disseminated by news services. One headline read, "Dead Horse Riddle Sparks UFO Buffs." It was also the first widely reported animal mutilation case in the United States, and it set the stage for reports of mutilations that continue even today. Much later, various theories were advanced to explain Lady's death. One veterinarian, Dr. Robert O. Adams, postulated that someone found the horse suffering from a severe infection and cut her throat to end the pain. Another, Dr. Wallace Leary, claimed to have found 2 bullet holes while reconstructing Lady's hindquarters. And Dr. Richard O. Norton, drafting a report for the Desert Research Institute at the University of Nevada, concluded that since there were thunderstorms in the area at the time of death, Lady may have been struck by lightning. None of these persons, except Dr. Altschuler, examined the horse at the time of death, noted mutilation expert Linda Moulton Howe. This is just an attempt to reconstruct history, she said. Since 1967, animal mutilations, mostly of cattle, have been reported in numbers reaching into the thousands. Mutilation reports reached a crescendo in the mid-1970s. However, with the large information distribution centers like Washington and New York more concerned with conventional news, mutilation stories were largely confined to medium-sized and rural weekly newspapers. When ever-increasing news reports of mutilated cattle began spreading from upper Montana through the Midwest and into South Texas, rural residents of Middle America began to react with fear and anger. In many cattle mutilation reports, there were attended sightings of strange lights and objects in the skies, as well as military style helicopters bearing no insignia or lights seen in the vicinity. Okay, now we're going to get into, in a minute here, into the, what are the reasons why would extraterrestrials, what are they up to? What are they doing? Why are they mutilating, horses? It's mostly cattle. Okay, why are they doing this? Okay, I have, four possible reasons, and I'll get into them in a second. But before I do, in this book, Alien Agenda by Jim Mars, I just want to, talk about another section here that he wrote about a typical mutilation. This is a typical mutilation. A typical mutilation account can be found in the following March 10th, 1975 officer's report from the Cochran County, Texas Sheriff's Department, filed by Sheriff C.G. Richards. And this is the report, folks. Okay, this is your typical cattle mutilation, and this is still happening as of today. It happens. One of the more famous cases. One of the cases, not more famous, but it's one of the more famous cases of high strangeness that occurred at Skinwalker Ranch in Utah was, a young calf. The Sherman family that was living there in the mid '90s, they had a small calf. They just tagged one of its ears. 45 minutes later, I mean, the thing was completely mutilated. Surgical precision. It's one of its ears was cut off surgically. There's no explanation. That's one of the incidents that happened at Skinwalker Ranch, which as we know, we talked about in other uh, podcasts, is a very strange place and a very happening places with regard to UFO sightings and strange occurrences. Anyway, back to this typical mutilation. Darwood Marshall came into my office and said he had found a heifer about 6 miles south of Whiteface, Texas, on his farm that had been mutilated. I went to the scene, and this is what I found. About 2 miles over in a field was a perfectly round circle. The heifer was laying in the middle of this circle with the head to the north, and it twisted straight up in the air. The bottom jaw was cut back and the tongue was gone. The sex organs were cut off and gone. The navel was cut out in a round circle, and the meat inside was not touched. There was no blood on the ground or on the cow. While I was checking this out, Mr. Marshall came up to me and said, "If you think this is odd, look at that place about a quarter of a mile west." We went over there and found another circle that was the same as the other one. He told me that they had drug a steer out of this circle, and it was over in the pasture. We looked at the other steer later. This circle was the same as the other one, but the wheat was about 4 inches tall, and it had been burned clean, and these circles were about 30 feet across them. I thought, this is a mystery, so I could not get this out of my mind. I went back to town and got a Geiger counter and checked the circles, and it showed that there was radiation present. I called Reese Air Force Base, and they sent a team out. They found half of 1% radiation, and they told me not to worry about the radiation. There was not enough to hurt anyone or thing, and they left. What I want to know is, how did it get there in the first place? I have had reports of UFOs in this area, but have not seen any myself. The people that have been reporting this all tell the same story. It is about as wide as a 2-lane highway, round, and looks the color of the sun when it is going down, and has got a blue glow around it. I have watched the news and the paper, and when these people see this thing, and 2 or 3 days later, we hear about some cows that have been mutilated. I don't know what is doing this, but it sure has got everyone around here uptight. So who knows? So there you go. That's usually what happens. Things are removed from the cattle surgically. There's no blood. A lot of times some of these cattle seem like they're dropped from a high distance. They have broken legs. So I guess the big question is, now that we know for a fact, right? We all know now. I know the debunkers out there are having tons. I mean, this is killing them. The fact that the government is telling us that, oh God, that's telling us. They said, yeah, there's objects out there. Yeah, we don't know what they are. That hurts the debunkers. That hurts the skeptics, because now they got to recalibrate. But again, the question remains: what are the aliens doing with? Why? What's the purpose? Purpose number one: they're studying them. You know, just like we study, kids in biology class look at frogs, or maybe they're looking at bovine, for whatever purpose, I don't know why they have to keep doing it tens of thousands of times over the course of all these years, decades and decades. That doesn't, I don't agree. I don't think that's the answer, but it could be. It could be, science, some sort of scientific study of cattle and other animals. It's mostly cattle, but there's horses, there's pigs, there's all kinds of animals. Seems to happen to, but that's what it could be. It could simply be study. The second thing, the fact that they're a lot of times their sexual organs are gone. Maybe there's something. What are they doing? In addition to all other objects of the animal, the sexual organs are gone. Maybe they're doing something. Maybe they're trying to recreate them. Maybe trying to make their own, put them on a different planet. Maybe they're trying to come up with their own, using the DNA and making their own cattle somewhere else. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's what it is, but it could be, I guess. I mean, but the third reason could be that it's for food, just like we use cattle for food. Maybe they're eating the meat. Maybe there's meat eaters among these extraterrestrials and they're eating them. Maybe not the extraterrestrials themselves. Maybe they have some other things with them, some other creatures, some other animals, that they feed this to. I'm not sure if that's what, I don't know if I believe that, but that's one of the reasons. The fourth reason, I think this might be it, but again, this doesn't make me right. Let's be clear, okay? I'm just throwing this out there, okay? The reason that they might be doing this is they might be trying to communicate with us. They might be trying to tell us, hey, look how horrible this is, right? They're trying to send a message to us that, let's imagine these extraterrestrials. They're advanced, 100,000 years more advanced than we are, or even 10,000 years, or but maybe it's a million years. Who knows? I don't know. But they're way more advanced. And when they look at this and they look at the way we survive, the way we feed ourselves, that we're actually, we actually, breed, have these animals and we raise them and we kill them. Animals that have brains and eyeballs and you know, things that think. They're not intelligent like we are, but they still have brains, and we're killing them, butchering them, and then having their meat all ground up from it, and or making hamburgers with it, and or you're cutting off, chunks of their flesh and turning it into steaks. I mean, maybe to an advanced race of beings, this is just disgusting. This is just savage. And they're trying to send the message out to us that what you're doing is terrible. This is terrible. I mean, that's from their point of view. Not that I agree. I love eating cheeseburgers. I think cheeseburgers are great. Okay, I love them. But maybe they don't think we should be doing this. And they're trying to send the message out, hey, we just cut up another cow. I mean, there's so much evidence. I mean, of all the things, right? Alien abductions seem very, it's very hard for people to prove them when people get abducted and they're brought into a spaceship. I mean, there's really no proof, Now there's been some implants found here and there that are unexplainable, but there's never really any physical proof when it's all over. But the one thing that there is proof of, the one calling card that aliens seem to don't mind leaving behind is these, the end result of a cattle mutilation. A lot of times there's indentations, like strange indentations in the ground, like something landed there, you know. People have, so there's been ranchers who have actually seen cattle getting drawn up in a beam of light. Getting so they watch a cow getting drawn up like something out of a Star Trek episode, drawn up in a beam of light. I mean, they're obvious about it, and then the evidence is right there. Look at it. This is I mean, it's obvious. This couldn't have been a predator that did this. I mean, look at the eyeballs cut out with an incision. Looked like it was incision surgically. A lot of these wounds are cauterized. How's that possible? If it's what are these? Does a wild wolf have lasers attached to its teeth? I mean, a lot of these precision cuts are cauterized then, and then there's no blood. There's an animal laying there. There's absolutely not one drop of blood. It's almost like the blood has been all completely drained, completely gone. There's no blood. There's no evidence of any blood most of the time with these cases. It's like, so they're trying to tell us the message is look at the disgusting mess that's left over. And we all look at it when you see pictures of cattle mutilations. I mean, it's disgusting to look at. Go online and type in Google. Go on Google, type in cattle mutilations and type out, for images and see what you get. You're going to see some disgusting looking things, right? We don't like looking at it. Nobody likes looking at it. It's disgusting. I mean, you see the eyeballs are gone, cut out. The anuses are bored out. There's a big giant hole where the anus was bored out. Okay, you got ears cut off like perfect precision. It's disgusting. It's disgusting, and we all look at it. So, ugh. But at the same time, we have no problem, having all these cows in ranches, and putting them in, killing them, putting a thing on their head and plunging a metal spike into their brain and then just cutting their necks open and just slaughtering them, and then we eat all kinds of things from them, hamburgers, meatballs, steak, cheesesteak sandwiches. I love cheesesteak sandwiches. We're all carnivores, but to a higher intelligence, this is just probably looks like, yeah, this is disgusting. Look, we gotta let these idiots know what they're doing here. Why don't they just be vegetarians? Maybe they want us to be vegetarians. Now, again, I don't want anyone to get mad at me over this, possibility. This is just a possibility. I'm not saying this is the reason, but I think it might be the reason. Of the 4 reasons I've laid out there so far, I think that seems more likely. They're sending a message. This is disgusting. This is savage. This is not, this is not. We don't like this. If you're gonna advance as a race, you gotta clean this part up. And maybe if we all were to stop eating hamburgers and steaks all of a sudden, maybe the aliens would, stop mutilating the cattle. Now, again, that's not going to happen anytime soon, and I'm not suggesting I would like that to happen. I'm just throwing that out from the. I mean, if you step outside the box, right, and you look at this situation, right, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I mean, if you're a civilization that's 10,000 years advanced, say, okay, 100,000, 20,000, whatever. I don't know how more advanced that these things are. Maybe I think there's multiple, not just one alien species coming here. I think there's multiple alien species coming. And I don't know, maybe it's only one of these species that's doing this mutilation just to show us this. That's if this is the reason. It might be something else. I mean, feel free to come up with your own ideas. This is just one of mine. I'm just throwing it out there. This is something I came up with. I'll sitting there in deep thought, like, why are they doing this? So what are they doing this for? Again, this could be one of the reasons. Now, again, they could look at this situation and say, maybe at some point they're going to realize how disgusting this is, what they're doing. Like, they're being, they're intelligent beings, but yet they're carnivores. They're carnivores. And we're showing them these mutilated cows, but yet they look at them and they find they're disgusted in them, but they're still after, that is disgusting. And then they're driving over to McDonald's and, getting a Big Mac and a quarter pounder with cheese. Just after they're not getting the point. So I guess we got to keep doing this. We got to keep mutilating the cow. Okay, let's keep it up. Okay. Now, unless, of course, I mean, we can go back to number 3. Maybe they're hungry too, and maybe they eat meat. If they're like us in a way, maybe they like to eat meat too. But I don't know. It's a big mystery. But here's the thing: now that we know that now that it's been confirmed by the highest level of government, okay, now that it's been confirmed, now it's time to talk about cattle mutilations. Okay, why are they doing it? Let's forget about the fact that, it could be Satanists. No, it's not Satanists. Come on. Don't be ridiculous. That sounds insane. Okay, it's not Satanists. It's not the government. Why would the government
A lot of people say it was a government secret operation. That's why these black helicopters are there.
The black helicopters might be there. They might be trying to figure it out themselves. If there were black helicopters really flying around on some of these ranches where these mutilations were happening, maybe there was a faction of the government trying to spy on these UFOs, trying to figure out what was going on. Maybe that's why they were there. But because it doesn't make any sense. Why would the government do that? Why would they? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They could buy their own cattle. If the government needed to do some experiments or mutilate some cows, they could just go and buy their own cows and do it somewhere. And they could do it in Area 51. They could go anywhere they want and do it. That doesn't make any sense at all. That's stupid. And then the predator.
Oh, it could be a predator. That's what I'm thinking. I know there's no blood, and looks like these were surgically removed ears and a cord out anus. But yes, a predator could do that.
Like, well, that's a ridiculous statement. No, Occam's razor says different. The first thing that comes to mind, okay, we saw lights in the sky. We saw flying saucers. Next day, the cow was dead. Cut up with surgical precision, cauterized, no blood. Okay, Occam's razor tells me that's aliens. I didn't need this Pentagon revelation to tell me that. Okay, I didn't need that. I already knew that. But now that they have done that, the rest of us, there are scientists in this world, scientists. Let's start asking the question, why are they doing that? Let's start looking at these carcasses, these mutilated carcasses. Let's study them even closer than we ever did before. Let's find out what's going on. Maybe we could put in secret tiny little cameras on every single cow where there's activity going on. Tiny little cameras, right? So when one of these cows disappears, maybe we could film it. We could film what happens. Do you ever think of that? Let's do something scientifically. Let's find out what these aliens are doing. Let's try to get the jump on them for once. Okay? Let's try to, it seems like they're always 20 steps ahead of us. Let's try to get the jump on them for once. Okay? I think it's time. Now that we know. It's been, the Pentagon has talked about, they told us, hey, yeah, you know what? These objects out here, yeah,
we don't know what the hell they are. Your guess is as good as ours, man.
That's what they basically just said to you. So, hey, let's get to the bottom of cattle mutilations. There's ways to do this. There's ways of doing this. We could have microscopic, those little tiny cameras. I mean, we have some technology today that's a lot better than we had 10 years ago. There has to be something we could do to figure this out. Maybe there's some reason I'm not even thinking here. There could be a fifth, sixth, seventh. There could be other reasons that you come up with now. These are just the 4 ideas that come to my head. Okay. But I think, it's possible that they're trying to send us a message. And that message is stop killing these cows. It's disgusting. You want to rise to our level of intelligence, then you got to, clean your act up. You look like a bunch of Neanderthals. Okay. That's it for this podcast. Thank you very much for listening.